When the words "I am phenomenal" appeared on the Titantron at the 2016 Royal Rumble, the collective roar from the Orlando crowd sent shockwaves through the industry. There stood AJ Styles, dynamic daredevil and world-traveled superstar, being treated as a conquering hero by the WWE audience. The reaction was one befitting an immortal, and that's what Styles, through nearly 2 decades performing as one of wrestling's most captivating and incredible athletes, had become. Whether he was TNA's ace in the hole for the better part of 11.5 years, or shining brightly on the New Japan stage, or receiving a strong push out of the gate in WWE, the last decade and a half of Styles' career has been one full-length highlight reel after another. At one time, it may have been unfathomable for a cruiserweight like Styles to reign for 1 year as WWE champion, but that's where wrestling is in 2018. And in the aftermath of Styles' historic reign coming to an end, we at Cultaholic are honored to take a look at the life and career of the phenomenal one. I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 things you didn't know about AJ Styles. Join us! Number 10. Phenomenal gamble. Like many of the individuals that we herald as kings and queens of the ring, Styles didn't have it easy in his youth. By all accounts, Styles grew up in a poor household with an alcoholic father. After graduating from Johnson High School in Gainesville, Georgia in 1996, Styles would attend Anderson University in South Carolina on a partial wrestling scholarship. For a man who grew up in a place where opportunities were few and far between, Styles seemed to have found his lifeline. That was until Styles was convinced by a friend to attend a pro wrestling tryout. Styles recalls taking one bump inside the ring and thinking to himself, "I can do this." Wanting to try his hand in the guarantee-free world of professional wrestling, Styles walked away from that partial scholarship, leaving the college life behind. It was quite a gamble, but when looking at where Styles is today, it was a gamble that certainly paid off. Number 9. Up close and personal. We all remember our first time going to see a wrestling show live and in person. Some of us may have been fortunate enough to have our first show be a major WWE pay-per-view, while others' first time may have been a local indie card. Your first live wrestling show may have come as a child, or it might have been later in life. For AJ Styles, his first such experience might surprise you. As revealed in an RF video shoot interview released in 2014, Styles' first time seeing pro wrestling live was on the night that he wrestled his first match in 1998. He'd never been to a show before, having grown up considerably poor, as we noted in the prior entry. Styles' family also couldn't afford cable TV, so throughout his youth, he was deprived of seeing much of the wrestling action that would inspire many of his peers. Instead, he had to settle for whatever syndicated or cable access wrestling was available to him. Number 8. Family first. It's a hidden gem that's not so hidden. In January 2002, Styles worked a match for WWE as a local enhancement talent, losing to Shane Hurricane Helms in a 5-minute exhibition. The match is notable for Styles taking Hurricane's rarely seen vertebreaker finish, and it's been a YouTube staple for a number of years. After this match, as well as an untelevised match against then developmental talent Rico, Styles himself was offered a developmental deal by the company. However, he turned them down. As part of that deal, Styles would have had to relocate to Cincinnati, where the Heartland Wrestling Association territory was located. And this would have conflicted with his wife Wendy's college education. Styles chose to pass on WWE's offer since Wendy's plans were already in motion. Months later, Jeff Jarrett offered Styles an opportunity with his startup NWA Total Nonstop Action promotion, which ended up being more geographically convenient for him and his wife. How different wrestling would be if Styles wasn't TNA's star performer from the go. Number 7. Highest honors. If you watched both TNA and Ring of Honor throughout 2002 and 2003, you got to see a young AJ Styles tearing up the business with no restrictions or ceiling. His matches with Jerry Lynn, Raven, and Low Key in Nashville were just as fantastic as battles with Bryan Danielson, Paul London, and CM Punk for the Ring of Honor crowds. Styles would leave Ring of Honor in early 2004 after TNA withdrew all of its contracted wrestlers from the company. Years later, Styles would concede that early in his career he preferred Ring of Honor to TNA, considering it his home promotion. Styles would, however, remain loyal to TNA for years after the fact, largely due to financial incentive because of his young family. Styles would get to resurface in Ring of Honor in 2005 and 2006, feuding with Jimmy Rave and the Embassy, while also challenging for the Ring of Honor World Championship held at the time by Bryan Danielson, today's Daniel Bryan. Number 6. the action stops. In the 16 and a half years that NWA TNA Global Force Impact Wrestling has existed, there aren't many candidates that would ace out AJ Styles as the all-time company MVP. His breathtaking matches and tireless work ethic put him many cuts above his peers, and Styles never relented in his output during his 11 and a half years working for the company. Unfortunately, it seems that all of that hard work and loyalty fell on deaf ears. Styles left the company in December 2013 at the expiration of his contract. He would later note that TNA didn't even try to negotiate with him until the story of his contract's impending end began making internet headlines. Even then, when TNA attempted last-ditch negotiations to get him to stay, he was asked to take a pay cut that was more than 60% of his existing contract. All of those years being that guy the company leaned on when times were bleak or other saviors let the company down, and that's what TNA reportedly offered their best performer. Is it any wonder that he was back in Ring of Honor shortly after the new year? Number 5, clashing with authority. When Styles emerged as the number 3 entrant in the 2016 Royal Rumble match, the ungodly crowd reaction told you all you need to know about the man standing in the wrestling world. A crowd filled with die-hard fans that had seen Styles' exploits through TNA, Ring of Honor, and New Japan gave him the rockstar treatment, and as a debut, it could not have gone any better. But one individual was still apparently unconvinced. That man, as you may have guessed, was Vince McMahon. While talking with Edge and Christian on their Pod of Awesomeness, Styles says that he heard McMahon wasn't keen on putting him there at number 3, thinking that nobody was going to know who he was. Despite the wildly positive response, McMahon was apparently still unmoved, saying that he felt the reaction was a fluke. But Styles does note that Vince was encouraging to him. After a match in which Styles worked as a typical babyface, Vince challenged him to be more aggressive, saying that he has enough guys who can have that match and to change it up by acting more like a freaking pit bull. Styles says the advice was all he needed to hear because he knew that he could deliver that type of performance. Number 4, angelic name. It's pretty hard to miss the gigantic tattoo on the right side of Styles' ribcage, depicting the letters AJ with several dates underneath them. Each of those dates are the birthdays of Styles' children, each of whom has the first initial of A. And since Styles' real last name is Jones, each of his kids' initials are officially AJ. His first son was born AJ Covell Jones on May 3rd, 2005, just 12 days before Styles defeated Jeff Jarrett to become NWA World Heavyweight Champion for the 3rd time at the Hard Justice pay-per-view. The middle name Covell is a bit unconventional, but it has a special meaning. It just so happens to be the real-life surname of the fallen angel Christopher Daniels, birth name Daniel Covell, who has been a close friend of Styles for many years. And it's quite heartwarming to know that that friendship has withstood everything from bloodbaths to the whole Claire Lynch mess. Number 3, paved with gold. To give you an idea of just how valuable Styles was to TNA, in everything except contract negotiations it would seem, consider how many championships he's won under the promotion's banner. From winning the X Division title during the company's first tapings to leaving the TNA World title by the door on his way out in 2013, Styles had 19 different reigns with a belt while at TNA. He's one of 8 men to have held the TNA Triple Crown, consisting of either the NWA or TNA World, NWA or TNA Tag, and X Division title. The other 7 men may have only achieved the Triple Crown once each, but Styles has done so 5 times. This includes 5 runs as the company's world champion, 6 reigns as some form of tag team champ, and 7 reigns as X Division champion. He's also the only man to have held the company's Grand Slam more than once by virtue of his 2 reigns as the Legends Global Champion. Number 2, a trip around the calendar. Making it through the feuds with Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe with his WWE Championship intact surprised many WWE fans, as it finally dawned on everybody that this reign had quite a bit of commitment behind it. Sure, Styles only got to defend the belt in 2 pay-per-view main events during that 1-year duration, but that's WWE for you. And it doesn't diminish the fact that Styles joined rare company with that year-long reign. As of the week before his title loss to Daniel Bryan, Styles became the 8th different man to have held the WWE Championship beyond 365 days. Bruno Sammartino achieved that feat twice in the 60s and 70s, while Pedro Morales reigned for nearly 3 years in the 70s, and Bob Backlund would reign for several years in the 70s and 80s. From the dawn of Hulkamania onward, the list consists of 5 men. Hulk Hogan, 4 years from 84 to 88, Macho Man Randy Savage, 1 year plus 6 days in 88-89, John Cena, close to 13 months in 2006-2007, CM Punk, 14 months between 2011-2013, and now, Styles himself. And number 1, making his mark everywhere. It was a pleasant surprise to see Styles Styles reigned for more than 1 year as WWE Champion, a feat not afforded to all that many wrestlers, especially in this modern age. That Styles joins John Cena and CM Punk as the only man to have accomplished the feat this millennium is something worth noting. Whether he's in WWE, TNA, or New Japan Pro Wrestling, Styles has found much trust as the top dog in all three promotions. And as of today, Styles is the only man to have held each of these three companies' recognized world title for more than 300 days combined. His 5 total reigns as NWA TNA World Champion add to 416 days, 220 for TNA and 196 for NWA, while his 2 runs as IWGP Heavyweight Champion combined for 307 days. His second WWE Championship reign alone eclipses 300 days, but combined the 2 reigns go for 511 days. That's a combined 1,234 days, or roughly a total of 3 years and 4 months as some type of world champion. For a man that came from very humble beginnings, that's certainly an achievement that qualifies as phenomenal. And that's our list. I've been Sam from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter here. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.